Thanks. And I want to welcome you on behalf of everyone at the Real Estate Roundtable to our 2021 State of the Industry meeting. I'm your chair, Deboer. We want to begin by thanking all of you for your support of our terrific organization, and for those of you who participate on our policy advisory committees, and of course for joining us at today's meeting. I also want to wish all of you and yours a very happy, healthy, and successful 2021. Today we have a great meeting for you, and we expect to present some really unique and valuable and new insights for you into the health and economic impacts of the pandemic, the inner workings of the Washington policymaking world, what the recent changes in Washington mean for the economy and for your businesses, and how our industry can come together to sponsor a positive, constructive path forward. It's kind of amazing that it's been a year since we last met in person at the State of the Industry meeting a year ago. And since then, of course, we have all experienced tremendous challenges in many dimensions: health, economic, and equality. We've witnessed senseless murders resulting in a long overdue reckoning on racial and gender barriers to opportunity that have long existed in our country. And clearly, we also have faced extreme shocks to both our democracy and our government that culminated in the violent attack on the US Capitol itself and the second impeachment of our former president. Yet, it's wonderful to see that both democracy and our government proved resilient, as evidenced by the effective transfer of power at President Biden's recent inauguration. I thought the power of the inauguration was enhanced by the attendance of all three of our last two-term presidents, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, who pledged their unity and support for the new administration. And the power of the inauguration was elevated to an incredible extent by the magic of a young woman's poetry. The inauguration and related events and the magnificent symbolism of our national monuments were something we can all be proud of and rally around. And our industry of building owners also distinguished themselves by participating in the January 19th National Illumination event, commemorating the many individuals who we have lost to COVID-19. To all of our members who participated beautifully in the illumination event, thank you and congratulations. Through all of this year's events, the Real Estate Roundtable and its experienced team, of course, led by our longtime CEO, Jeff Deboer, have marched forward with their usual focus and effectiveness. They've continued to constructively represent the real estate industry on important policy matters across the board. They serve as a fact-based, bipartisan proponent of constructive solutions that are designed to benefit the whole economy and our industry and create jobs and more inclusive economic growth. Now, recently, we've made some decisions that some might consider to be tough calls. We were one of the first Washington industry groups to denounce the January 6th violent mob attack on the Capitol and the underlying claim of a stolen election. We were also one of the first industry political action committees to suspend political support for members of Congress who supported the goals of the mob and voted against certifying the election. And lastly, we are one of the only groups to recently announce that we will support policymakers who are interested in seeking bipartisan solutions, and of course won't support those who won't cross the aisle. And while these actions certainly would have their critics, we feel strongly that they were right and reflect the kind of leadership that our organization represents. So today, you'll have the chance to see the Roundtable's impact on display and during the Policy Advisory Committee meetings tomorrow. We can also be proud of our organization's commitment to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion in our industry. We have launched our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee under the able leadership of Related CEO, Jeff Blau, and we expect great strides toward more inclusive opportunities from our partnership with the Real Estate Executives Council, or REIS. I want to thank both Jeff and REIS for their participation and leadership. Moreover, in partnership with many national real estate organizations, we are proud to support our Careers Building Communities Coalition to mentor and inspire young minority students about the benefits of a career in real estate. And we have all enjoyed those benefits and want to share them more broadly. So today's meeting, as I said, is designed to help all of us gain insight into the policies we can expect from Washington near term and in the coming years. Today, to that end, we will hear from three very important incoming chairs of relevant Senate committees: banking, tax, and energy. These incoming chairmen will be quite candid in discussing their priorities and how we can support constructive solutions. Key policy topics include aid to cities and states, infrastructure, renters assistance, tax, liability protection, diversity and equality, climate and sustainability, and financial support for struggling households and businesses. On the public health front, we are very fortunate that Dr. Scott Gottlieb has agreed to rejoin us for an hour to share his expertise and predictions about the new vaccines, the administration's plans to beat the virus, and when we will be ready for a safe reopening and recovery of our economy. And finally, I hope you'll join us this evening for a fireside chat with President Obama's Commerce Secretary, Penny Pritzker, our dear friend and former Roundtable member. At the end of the meeting, we'll take a very short break. And then, after you get a beverage in hand, we will rejoin to hear Penny discuss leadership, what the incoming administration is facing, and global and national trends of interest. It's going to be a great day. I want to conclude my remarks by thanking the entire Real Estate Board of Directors for their strong support and innovative thinking, and in particular, our administrative committee and my friend John Fish, who will become chair of the Roundtable this July. Please know that the Roundtable remains financially solid and even strong. I want to thank all of you who've continued to support the organization by sending in your dues, and for those of you who are those of you where the check is in the mail, we look forward to your support in the coming year as well. You should also know that we're actively managing our expenses as an organization, and we are really thoughtful about how we are reaching you through virtual communications and our advocacy. During this time, I want you to know where your support is going. Our mission has remained consistent and unwavering, and it continues to be to bring the top leaders in the real estate industry together with our leading trade associations to address the key national policy issues relating to our industry and to the overall economy. We continue to invest in solid issue research and to advocate responsible long-term solutions to problems. And our mission continues to require that we anticipate changes in the economy, our industry, the needs of tenants, so we can help policymakers understand coming changes and the policy actions that are needed to address them. And once again, I want to thank all of you for your support, for participating in our committees, and for supporting our PAC. And before we go to our first guest, I want to turn the floor over to our fearless leader, Jeff Deboer, so he can talk in greater detail about our issues and priorities for the coming year. But before I do, I want to let all of you know that Jeff was once again named in December by The Hill magazine as one of Washington's top lobbyists. And we are so fortunate as an organization to have him and the entire team who are very skilled and very dedicated to representing all of you. So I want to thank the team and Jeff for those efforts. And now over to you.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I guess my mic's on. Is my mic on? Yeah, it's on. Deb, thank you very much. That was really nice of you to say that. And it is true. Our team works very, very hard. Loves the industry, loves the job. And thank you for saying that. It means a lot to all of us. But I have been receiving a couple of texts here that have of people watching this who say, gee, Jeff, you look great. I know that you're lying to me. Okay. I know you're all lying to me, but thanks. That's nice to hear. It has been a difficult few months here, but we soldier on. A couple of housekeeping items, I guess. First of all, if you haven't downloaded your app, your meeting app, download the app, because that's going to give you the program and the bios and other background information. So you'll want to do that, and you were emailed that. So please do that. It'll help you get the most out of the meeting that you can. Please fill out the sentiment index survey. That's important to us, and it's important to how we think, and it's important to our brand. So take a couple of minutes to please fill that out. And here's another little thank you. You know, at the end of the year, last year, we sent out a survey on all issues, and you all filled that out. We're compiling the data now, and next week, or very shortly after this meeting, after the committees meet and everything, we will be issuing our 2021 policy agenda that will outline, you know, how we see things and what our priorities are for the coming year. So thank you for that. We've spent basically since the crisis began, we've been focusing on how we can help those who have lost their jobs, and how we can help businesses that have been closed, either by government fiat or of their own volition, to help the health of all of us. And that's been priority number one for us, and it continues to be priority number one for us. We've also tried to advance the idea that employers need to have some protection from liability, from lawsuits and so forth. We're not looking for the protection of gross negligence or anything like that, but we want a roadmap that people can follow. And if they follow it and do what they're supposed to, they should not be sued then for not doing something that they didn't even know about. So we're continue to be supportive of that. We're obviously very, very concerned, and have been, and promoted it and continue to promote aid to cities and states. I think that we all will agree that until cities are stabilized and are able to make their metro systems or their subway systems or their transportation systems or other parts of their communities safe and healthy, we know that we won't have the robust recovery that we all want. So we need state and local assistance. And there's a few other things that are very important in this shorter term COVID bill. Longer term, we continue to support tax policy that we think makes sense from a point of view of the economics of the transaction itself. We're not interested in subsidies, and we don't want to be penalized on the tax front. And that's why, and we've argued it for years, and we will continue to argue it. And we've also connected all of our issues to jobs, but that's why, we continue to benefit from the like-kind exchange provision, the only industry where we continue to be the industry that can deduct interest on business debt, basically the only industry, and a variety of other things that we've over the years, well, the decades actually, to try and connect to the economy. And we continue to do that. On credit and capital, we're very active to make sure that we can keep an appropriate flow of capital. Right now, we're heavily involved in this pandemic risk insurance issue. We think going forward that the markets and the economy might need the benefit of a federal program, similar but not exactly like TRIA, but similar to the terrorism risk insurance program. So we've stood up a coalition with our real estate trade industry partners and others, the broadcasting industry, the entertainment industry, event planning, sports, and we're all working on that. And we think we'll have that teed up as the year develops. Sustainability, same thing. We're looking for ways where we can help, create more energy efficiencies, make our assets more sustainable, and be a positive voice in all of this. So that's, in general, what our points of view are. Those of you who serve on committees, and Deb thanked people for their work on committees, the committees are terrific, and that's where we get the analysis. So I want to double down on her thank you to you, because the work of the tax and credit and capital, sustainability, research, homeland security, diversity, all of these things are very important to help us know what in the world we're doing. So I appreciate that. And I guess the other thing that I would say is, this has been very stressful for, I think, the whole country, watching what happened after the election. And the demeanor and the tone of public discourse. I think we're all concerned about that, and it culminated in the attack on the Capitol building. And it affected, I think, all of us, but those of us who work in Washington were definitely hit hard by that. And I put in the app, once you do download the app, those of you who don't have it downloaded, you don't know what I'm talking about, but that's APP, go to your app store. And you'll see in our documents, I put out statements that we issued after the attack on the Capitol, Deb referenced, and we issued a statement on our political support, our participation in the Illumination event, but also on the app is a editorial that our very own Ryan McCormick authored and was published in a few newspapers down in Florida. Ryan worked in the Senate for a number of years and provided his firsthand reaction, and I think everybody should reach it. Now, we're going to quickly add something to the agenda. We've been talking to the White House about having, someone there visit with us today, and obviously they have a lot of things going on, but we are fortunate that Zach Butterworth, who is the Director of Public Engagement for the Biden White House, has a few minutes with us today. Zach is a political hand. He worked for Cedric Richmond on Capitol Hill. He worked for Mary Landrieu, Senator Landrieu. Then he went back for Mitch Landrieu in New Orleans when he was mayor. And so, Zach, are you with us? And maybe you could give us 5 minutes of the Biden administration and how we can be helpful.
Sorry, Jeff. He sent a note. He is now not able to join us.
Oh, well,
Sorry.
There you go. Now, everyone sees what my life is about, on and off. But I think that, we don't have to feel at all negative about that. These are very hardworking people, and they're very, very hard times, and people are getting pulled all the time. So I'm sure that we've got one in the bank, so to speak, with Zach and his pals over there. So we'll soldier on. The other thing that I wanted to mention before we get to Senator Wyden is, our PAC. And thank you all for your last year's support of our PAC. It helped us be very active and support those who first of all, want to be bipartisan. They play nice in the sandbox. We support them. They understand the importance of growing communities and real estate and the connectivity to jobs, and we support them. And your investment in our political action committee helped us do that. Scott Reckler and Marty Chico and Glenn Shannon share that. So thank you for that. But guess what? It's a new year. And so we do need to recapitalize our political action committee, and we'll be asking for your support once again in that. So I am just about done with my remarks. I'm hoping that Senator Wyden will be appearing soon. The other item that I would bring up, I guess, is that, we've got Senator Wyden live with us. We have 3 incoming chairmen of the new Democratic controlled Senate. 3 people with big jobs, with big responsibilities that are going to be dealing with huge bottom line interest issues for us and for the economy. Ron Wyden has been with us a few times. Senator Wyden, the chair of the Finance Committee now. He'll be with us in a few minutes. Then we have recording. I recorded an interview yesterday with Senator Joe Manchin, who is the incoming chair of the Energy Committee from West Virginia. Now, a lot of you may not have anything in West Virginia, but guess what? Joe Manchin is a very, very important person, and he's all over the news today. And that interview is quite illuminating. I commend you to read that. And then Senator Sherrod Brown, the chair of the Senate Banking Committee, who now has jurisdiction over so many issues that affect us. Housing, number one, Fannie Mae, and how the low income, housing affordability, housing availability, issues like that. And he will also be the one who deals with our pandemic risk insurance issue. So those 3 gentlemen are quite important to the process, and we're honored that they're going to join us at some point today. Penny's going to be here tonight, Penny Pritzker with Deb, and we all know the tremendous perspective that she's going to bring to our meetings today. So I will stop and invite Deb or John to comment, and if not, we'll just await Senator Wyden, who should be pretty prompt. Senators, are prompt. They were all sworn. They're all awaiting the impeachment, I guess. But I will stop. Go ahead, Deb.
Jeff, obviously the incoming administration is going to try to end the COVID pandemic, which obviously is fundamental to the economic recovery. Can you talk about some of the other aspects of the Biden administration's plan that you think as an industry, we can be really involved in and that will be great for real estate owners?
Well, I think first of all, they've put out this plan, the 1.9 trillion. And I think that a number of senators, Democrats, have now come out and said that maybe there are items in that plan that are not necessarily COVID related and should be put on the sidelines for a little bit, including things like the minimum wage bill and maybe some other things. So first of all, I would guess that 1.9 trillion dollar proposal is going to be whittled back, maybe substantially. Remember where we ended up at the end of last year. The Republicans were willing to take 500 billion. These numbers I just can't. 500 billion.
Yeah.
And the proposal from the House Democrats at one point was 3 trillion, and it came down to around 2 trillion, and they ultimately settled on 900 billion. So now I think that that can be a measurement for us. I think that obviously something less than 1.9, but something north of 500, I think. And there's a lot of senators, again, who would like to see the current money that has been allocated from Congress. Almost $5 trillion has been allocated from Washington over the last 9 months. And there's a number of people who would like to see how that seeps in. But they also acknowledge that there's a lot of hurt out there, that people need assistance, that businesses need assistance, that states and cities need assistance. So I'm optimistic that something will come together on that. And I think we can play our constructive role of cheerleading and pushing and urging that this go on. We're not asking for anything directly for our industry. If people get money to pay rent, obviously it helps us, but it helps us meet our tax obligations, our payroll, and so on and so forth. So I think, we can be helpful there as we go forward. And perhaps Senator Wyden will get into this, but there's going to be an effort to reform taxes, provide more opportunities for people, maybe deal, with the inequality that people talk about so much, income inequality. And I think that we have to approach this, with a very much of an open mind and a willingness to play a positive part in moving this legislation forward. I think it's too early right now to say this provision or that provision is objectionable. I think we all know what now President Biden talked about on the campaign trail, but we also know that people talk about a lot of things on the campaign trail. And so let's keep our I don't want to say powder dry, because that implies we're going to fire our powder. I mean, I just think we should let the process come a little bit, and let's see where it goes and figure out where we can be helpful. The other thing, Deb, that I would say is I think, talking to roundtable members and the board, of course, but I think everybody is ready or is seeking and thirsty for bipartisanship, for better tone, better discourse in public debate. And that's mainly what I think we should be promoting here, and supporting those people who want that, thanking those people who maybe go against their leadership here and there, and take bold steps. And there's a number of us in DC that do this for a living who I think are coming to that conclusion, and we want our memberships to be there as well.
And John, where do you see the greatest opportunities for us as you look forward?
Oh, John's muted, I think.
Debbie, as we've spoken in the past, I think one of the biggest opportunities we have is to educate, I think, the new congressional leadership and the staff that has come to Washington recently. As we all know, I think since Trump has stepped down, there's been quite a new group of individuals that are really going to be dealing with over the next 2 to 4 years. And I think it gives us a wonderful opportunity to build on the credibility that Jeff has already established, also establish that with other members of Congress. I also think that we can, as an organization, especially at this particular point in time, I think help people really understand the true impact that real estate has on driving our economy forward. I think quite often people take that for granted, and Jeff often speaks very eloquently about it. But at the end of the day, if we don't have a healthy real estate business industry, we don't have a healthy economy, and they are synonymous.
And now, in the way of Washington, you saw it work when Zach pulled the plug. We now see it. Senator Wyden, I believe, has joined us. And so I think what I'd like to do, rather than me go on and introduce him, I'm going to ask, and this is a surprise to Senator Wyden. Where is Senator Wyden? I don't see him. Where are you, Senator? Well, you're here somewhere. I was told you were here. Well, where is Senator Wyden? There he is. So I think that what we'd like to do is to surprise Senator Wyden with a special guest introduction, but I can't introduce the special guest until I visually see the good senator. And ding dong. Isn't technology great? Doesn't everyone just love this? All right. Well, I think that
we see Senator Wyden's name.
Well, let me say, before we get the real introduction going, Senator Wyden has been very generous with his time to us over the years. some issues we don't fully agree with, but some issues we do. And the door is always open with the senator. And like I said, he's got a very big job, and I'm sure that he's a few seconds here delayed trying to do something in his office that is good for America and good for his constituents. And so where did you go? We just lost him. Well, when Senator Wyden does appear, we're going to have him introduced by Rick Sapkin from Denver, Colorado. And Rick Sapkin is the principal, managing director, founder, CEO, president, head honcho for Edgemark Development in Colorado, in Denver, and is a real, has been a tremendous supporter of mine and helped me think through things regarding the COVID situation. And once we have Senator Wyden, then we will ask Rick to introduce him. But is Senator Wyden here? Why don't I see him?
He was, but something happened on their end. They dropped out and they should be joining again shortly.
Okay. Well, that's all right. That's just that's part of the infrastructure in America that needs to be strengthened. And by the way, those of us who are on the East Coast are having internet problems today. Verizon and others are having some problems. Let me just say a few other things before he returns, although it's speaking. There he is. Senator Wyden has joined us. And Senator, we have a very special surprise for you.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, there you are. Thank you so much. There you are. And guess what? We have a surprise. You don't have to listen to me introduce you, but we have Rick Sapkin is going to give you a little introduction and welcome you to the Real Estate Roundtable. If that's okay with you, sir, and maybe it's objectionable, but
no, I'm just looking at a very hip Westerner with a cool beard, and I guess those are windows out to the Wild West.
What do you think of this COVID look?
I think it's cool. I think it's cool.
Well, thank you. You're looking.
Help sell some housing.
Yeah, you're looking very senatorial today. Let me. I was asked to make an introduction to you, and it is my pleasure to welcome my good friend, Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon. Senator Wyden is well known to many of you and a very good friend of the Real Estate Roundtable. The senator will soon formally become chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, which he last served as chairman in the 113th Congress, 2014 and 15. Senator, 2021 marks your 41st year in Congress. You started when I think you were, what, 10? And he served in the House for 16 years before being elected to Senate in 1996. A little research was done, and there are only two current members who have served longer in Congress, Senator Pat Leahy and Representative Don Young. But because you've been able to fly under the radar screen and do so much good work, people leave you alone most of the time. From trade to healthcare to technology, policy to taxation, Senator Wyden has been an intellectual leader in the Senate. I know you care deeply about economic opportunity, open government, fairness, and building prosperity. You clearly have never shied away from the difficult issues, and you have always worked to build bipartisanship with everything you do. You have always pushed new ideas to your colleagues and fresh approaches to the difficult issues. Some of those ideas, like access to housing and infrastructure, I'm sure we'll hear today from you. So, Senator, it is my pleasure to introduce you, and thank you.
Rick, thank you for that unquestionably inflationary introduction. And it's good to be able to visit with all of you. I know we're in the virtual house rather than being able to do this in person, but soon we'll be able to do this again. I had this brief cup of coffee at the Finance Committee as chair before, And it was because Max Baucus was headed to China, and then Mitch McConnell, to a great extent, shut the Senate down. I think that there's some extraordinarily important work to do right now. And I'm just going to offer up a couple quick thoughts, and then let's go right to questions for a few minutes. If I was going to sum up where we are on housing, I would say what we need is a lot more housing. We need a lot more affordability, and we need a lot more focused assistance to our most vulnerable neighbors. That's how I'd sum up where we are. Obviously, we were in a crisis before the pandemic. Now we've got rent payments down, mortgages are in forbearance, folks owe landlords a check. And if help doesn't get out there soon, we're going to see, in my view, pretty much a tsunami of evictions. So passing emergency relief legislation is critical. People need help to be able to pay their rent arrears, keep the mortgage current, keep internet service for kids trying to learn online, parents working remotely, and they got to be able to visit a doctor if they need to. So that's what I'm spending my time on now. And there's real urgency. For example, we're going to have millions of unemployed workers go off an economic cliff in the middle of March if the Congress doesn't act quickly. So obviously, you're talking to somebody who's been in public service and believes housing development is absolutely crucial to the quality of life, having a strong economy, and it sure is vital to any kind of economic comeback. So a little bit about some past developments that you may not have heard about. At the end of 2020, Senator Cantwell, my seatmate, and I on the Finance Committee got a big win for the low-income housing tax credit by putting a floor underneath the value of the 4% credit. Evidence indicates that alone is going to add thousands of units of affordable housing in the production pipeline over the next few years. In fact, that 4% floor fix is a good periscope to what I'm going to keep doing in 2021. Over the next 2 years in particular, this Congress, we got to get America building housing again. And in that regard, I'll be introducing a piece of legislation that y'all have heard about before called the DASH Act, the Decent, Affordable, Safe Housing for All Act. And what really convinced me to do it is that a couple years ago, I learned about kids having to sleep in the woods at night in Oregon, where it gets damn rainy and cold, and people are really, up against the elements, and that's no way to learn and be able to be in a position to maintain your health. And I just said, we're not going to do that. I love my state so deeply, and we know that we can do better. And the DASH Act would provide vouchers to every family and child experiencing homelessness and build 1 million deeply affordable homes, because in my view, access to shelter is a fundamental human right. The DASH Act invests in ongoing funding for community-based supportive services, especially culturally supportive services, support for youth transitioning out of child welfare, because there are fantastic providers on the ground out there that need investment to make their jobs easier. It's also going to push states and localities to give developers regulatory relief when it comes to developing low and middle income housing, because so much zoning is profoundly exclusionary and contributes to segregation. But I really have those kids on on my mind right now. Those kids, out in the woods, and we love our outdoors, and we know that winter, when you get rain, that's important as well, because it's critically important for everything from skiing to recreation in the summer and the like. But we got to make sure those kids get adequate shelter. So that's what the Dash Act's about. Let's take a couple of questions, and we just always appreciate the chance to work with you. Rick, Jeff, you guys want to just throw a few questions?
Senator, I would defer to either our chair, my chair-elect, or Mr. Sapkin here if they have any quick questions. If not, I'm getting a few here.
You guys are like the Senate. You do a lot of yielding, and my distinguished colleague has a very important question and all that.
This is my job, Senator.
That's
okay?
what I mean. Yeah, I got
We
the drift.
actually mean it.
I got the drift.
All right. Well, here's one. So, I mean, obviously, the COVID impact and is ravaging people. It's ravaging businesses and all. No surprise there. What do you see the role of the Finance Committee? Kind of in the short term on that, and then hopefully, we get this behind us, and then we're talking about either stimulus or income equality or other issues that I'm sure that you are looking ahead at. How do you divide those two?
Well, the first package that we're working on really involves the $2,000 checks. And that's what the Congress talked about in December. And that's what the Georgia Senate race was all about, where both the Democratic candidates and the Republican candidates recognized that, a lot of folks needed some help to get through till we're on the other side of the virus. So we're going to have those checks, expanded unemployment. I wrote the extra $600 per week each week and brought the program into the 21st century, because essentially we had never covered gig workers and the self-employed and independent contractors. So I want to expand that. And then, of course, COVID. And what we are looking at there is a national strategy where the president and David Kessler called me a couple of days ago, the former FDA commissioner, and he's going to be heading up the effort. But we need a partnership with the states. We need to use the Defense Production Act in order to produce what we need. We need to focus on the PPE, the protective equipment that our healthcare workers need, and we've got to deal with workforce. Now, in the Senate, because many of these measures are public health, Senator Patty Murray of Washington, who heads the committee over the public health programs, plays a vital role. At the Finance Committee, we have jurisdiction over Medicare, Medicaid, and employer-based coverage. So the two of us work very closely together on these issues. And as I say, we've really got a deadline here. Now, one of the things you're all going to hear about in the real estate, roundtable is, well, can't we just take, a little bit more time and see if we can, even if there is some back and forth between the political parties now, see if we can put together an arrangement that will allow us to move forward. My views are very explicit here. I usually get flack for being too bipartisan, and I would rather get to that first package with a bipartisan, effort. That is my first choice. But if there is an effort to drag things out, that was the case with the Affordable Care Act in 2009, months and months, and force a smaller package, which was always the case in 2009, then I believe you've got to take action quickly, in order to meet these urgent needs people have. I mean, this is money, for example, that is going to go to keep a roof over their head, keep their family fed. And let's just remember at the end of the year, all those holiday stories where parents were saying over Christmas time that they were giving up meals for their kids to eat. So Jeff, that may be a little longer answer than you wanted, but that's
I think
what we're thinking about.
again, we want to be your partner on this. You and I have talked about this in the past. I've got a couple of three questions that I'll roll into one for you. They're kind of in the weeds, but not really. I mean, part of real estate's, we want to help businesses, and there is an esoteric part of the tax code dealing with REITs and how they're able to assist in a private setting manner their tenants who are struggling and have been hit hard. And so there is some legislation on the House is working its way over there that would allow REITs for a short period of time to put capital, if you will, into their struggling tenant in order to keep them afloat. And you don't necessarily have to respond to that. I just want to bring it to your attention and say, here's an example of the private sector wanting to help. And these are businesses that are probably not small businesses that qualify for the PPP program, and they're all leveraged out, so they can't go to traditional level. And so there's that issue. We'd love to talk with you about that.
Jeff,
the other issue.
Save some time. I'd like to hear about it. I will confess to not having seen anything, but I thought I saw some fleeting mention. Please get it to us and let me look at it.
We'll do. The other area is also, every business is going to be restructuring their debt. Values have changed and so on and so forth. And obviously, if you borrowed $100 and now it's restructured to where you owe 80, you've got $20 of income, and people acknowledge that. The issue is kind of how that is absorbed and when you have to pay it. And there's a number of people who would like to see the basis on their assets reduced by that $20 because they don't have the 20 today, but you're going to get it through a reduced ability on depreciation and other things. Again, no need to answer it right now.
No,
it's just flagging it for you.
I'm not one who runs around and says people who aren't in a position to pay, suddenly there should be some new arrangement to make that the focus of tax policy. What I've been concerned about, and I think you all know that, is that I think everybody has got to pay their fair share. There was a piece in the paper the other day that said that there were several hundred billionaires, that's with a B, who made enough money during the 1-year pandemic that if they were taxed at today's rates, and they actually paid those rates, that would be enough to take care of the stimulus checks for 1,000 people. So what I'm interested in is looking at those kinds of instances, Jeff, where it just departs from the basic fairness principle. Those are people making substantial sums of money. They're in a position to pay. And I don't think a United States senator can explain to a nurse who's treating COVID patients and pays taxes with every single paycheck how that person can avoid paying taxes. That's my view.
It's a very reasonable, responsible view, and I don't think you're going to get any pushback from us about that, sir.
Jeff, let's because I know people want to ask some other questions. Let's just apropos of this question, you get me your example with respect to the REITs, and then the second one with respect to somebody whose basis changed or something like that. We'll look at it. Okay.
Excellent. And then then the other two questions that have popped up here on my screen, I'm like, the moderator here, sir. One is, on the campaign trail, President Biden listed a whole bunch of possible revenue increases and tax law changes. One is concerning the ability to trade properties in a like kind exchange situation. And there seems to be a great misunderstanding that every trade would be a sale if it could be a sale. And that's certainly not the case. And then there's also the situation, I think it's not appreciated that in these cases, when you trade assets, There's a lot, then the person acquiring the asset has more capital to put into the asset, improve it. And the final thing is, lo and behold, these trades are substantially done by minority owned businesses and women-owned businesses. Again, no need to answer it. I'm just flagging it for you as a concern. And the final thing, sir, is just whatever is done, and our industry experienced it very much back in 1986, that Tax Reform Act. But whatever is done, you know, we would urge obviously a prospective, not any retroactivity thing. And people are still burned about that. And I got a question on it just now, so I want to raise that with you.
Yeah. Let me take up both points. I gather that the first sort of batch of questions relates to the 1031 debate. Is that right?
The first two relate to how we can help the economy in a private sector way. The last two on like-kind exchanges and retroactivity relate to just concerns about tax policy changes.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's been another little outbreak of trade press speculation about the 1031s, and I'm waiting to see the details of what the president may wish to do there. We talk to the Biden economic folks pretty frequently, and I'm not up on any special knowledge about this speculation. I know there was the proposal by the campaign last summer. I will tell you right now, we're working pretty much around the clock on the first COVID package. It would seem to me to be very unlikely that this kind of proposal would make its way into a COVID relief package. So that's kind of my take on that.
Senator, if we were in the situation where there could be standing ovations, you would have just received, well, you would have received several so far, but.
Well, I'm sure that I will probably take positions and make statements that will cause people to want to retract any standing ovation that they give now. Look,
in the spirit of what you just said, sir, about us getting you paper, we do have some studies that we wouldn't ask you. We would never ask. We don't ask people to do things without data.
No,
we have 1031 data that we'll get you. So you.
I'm gonna have to get out the door pretty quick. But here's my point. You know, I come from a state that has always believed deeply in housing. It was all about wood products, and we understood that there was a real multiplier for communities and for people, putting a roof over their head. And I still believe that. Some of you know that in the last Congress, apropos of LIHTC and our expanding it, I've actually proposed MITEC. It's the middle income housing tax credit. So, you know, we think that housing is one of those really core values I talked about in my remarks. I'll be them short, that I believe housing is a basic human right. And as I say, you know, whenever I talk about this subject, I think about those kids who are sleeping in the woods, and school buses would come to the woods and pick them up. And I say, damn it, we can do better than that. And that's what led to the DASH Act. And, you know, apropos of DASH, we're not going to get decent, affordable, safe housing for everybody in the next 20 minutes, as much as I would like to do it. But I want to get started, and we'll be working with you. Okay? If the program's wrapping up,
Only Chairman Ron Wyden could get Rick Sapkin out of the woods for this. So thank you very much.
Deborah, were you trying to ask a question?
I was going to thank you for being here, and also just ask you, with the COVID relief that you're looking at, how are you prioritizing being fast and generalized in your relief versus being more targeted to the specific households and businesses who have actually been negatively affected by COVID? Because
I wish I could give a short answer to that. I think on balance, if I were to sum it up, just like I said, my principles are more housing, more affordability, more focus on the vulnerable. I'm just not gonna Monday morning quarterback people like David Kessler and the scientists. And what we're trying to do is come up with a national plan that will be grounded in good science. I don't think you want your United States senator, albeit 100 of us who think we have the answers to everything, to sit there on the floor of the United States Senate and go, the money goes here and the money goes there. You know, we'll have input. about whether the direction is fundamentally sound and meets the priorities. But I'm not going to, as a guy who believes deeply in science and has worked hard in those science precincts, I'm not going to let 100 United States senators take the place of good science. Okay? Let's put this.
We appreciate everything you've done and look forward to
everybody.
working with you.
Rick,
Bye.
thanks, everybody.
Very much. Thank you. Well, that was terrific. And thank you, Rick, for introducing him. It's always good for a senator like that to see an old friend. And I know you've made him feel welcome and comfortable. Thank you for that. And there's a lot of questions that I got that weren't reached, but tomorrow at the tax committee, you know, Ryan McCormick and Frank Creamer and his group are meeting, and they're going into things in detail. So tune in there.
What was
I know
your
you
favorite?
understand
What
it.
was your favorite part of Senator Manchin?
Well, I think that he very clearly laid down his point of view, which is a very strong point of view about the size and scope of this next bill by saying, you know, we want to understand where the relief needs to be made, not just send dollars out. That was clear from him. I think he made a pretty good point on state and local assistance. He said, you know, it will be on a needs basis, which is good, and singled out New York, Chicago. He said that. He also said on taxes that he didn't want to throw, I think his comment was, a rock in the lake or something like that and disrupt the economy. So he's got in his mind that we don't want to have tax increases in the face of trying to get the economy going. And he also basically made that basic point that I think that we all, when we deal with elected officials and we think they're crazy and how can somebody hold these jobs and stuff, but he made the basic point that I'm going to judge everything on my ability to take that back to my voters, my people in West Virginia. And I think that, you know, we have to understand that a lot of these people, you know, when they're driven by something, they're driven by back home. And if back home doesn't like it, they're going to lose their job. So we have to keep that in mind. Maybe there were some other big points.
Well, as my mother,
So
you know, as my mother would say, we need more people up there with common sense, and he has common sense.
Yeah, and he's, you know, look, he's done it all. He's been a state and local official. He's been a governor. He's been a senator now for quite some time. And he's swimming against the stream in terms of, I think Trump won by 30 points probably, or something like that. And meanwhile, Manchin wins. So he's got to do that. And I guess I'm sorry that I interrupted the start of it. That video and all the other videos are available. We're going to send all of those out. So if the first couple of minutes, you'll be able to, everyone can do that. We do have another video that we have previously sent on Sherrod Brown, Senator Sherrod Brown, chairman of the banking committee. That is equally interesting, very interesting interview. And then at the board meeting today, we had a political discussion with a Washington Post commentator, Steve Pearlstein, and we're going to send that out. It's quite interesting on his advice on how to bring bipartisanship together. So again, I hope you've all had a great day tonight. We've got Deb is interviewing our former member and past Commerce Department Secretary Penny Pritzker on leadership and trends and stuff.
And I promised her you'd all show up at 7 o'clock Eastern. So
please go make your phone calls, not like me, make them off the line, and and then come back, because it's going to be great tonight. And thank you, Deb, and thank you everyone for viewing.
Great day, more to follow. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, we'll see you.